Hey friends, welcome back to our Advent series here at the Diocese of Houma-Thibodaux. My name is Megan Martin. Today I am joined by Lars Curry, and we are going to be getting into some different Advent themes for this first week of Advent, and just talking about our lives as pilgrimage and being pilgrims on that journey. St. Therese even goes as far as to say that the world is thy ship and not thy home. So we're going to kind of get into those things, and we're excited to have Lars here with us today. So Lars, I would love for you to just introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you for having me, first of all. And when you had called me and asked me to do this interview, I immediately wanted to say yes, because I love just being able to share with other fellow Catholics and fellow Christians just common ideas that we might have heard of, but not have dove deeper into. Yeah. So I really appreciate that. But yeah, so as you said, my name's Lars Curry. I was born and raised in Dallas. That was my home for 20 plus years. And then I moved there my senior year of high school, and due to just extenuating circumstances, and then I found Nicholls. One of my passions always growing up was cooking, going with my grandparents, going with different family members, and just I knew that was on my heart. That's what I wanted to pursue as my career. And my grandparents found Nicholls, and they said that it was one of the top culinary schools in the country. And I immediately, that's just where I was drawn. And I'm from Dallas, a huge city, millions of people. Thibodaux is small. I don't even know how many thousand people, but way small.
Not a lot.
And yeah, so I was excited, but also nervous, because I had to leave all those relationships, all those friendships, but I was ready. And so I came to Nicholls 2016, fall of 2016, and I did my whole 4.5 years at Nicholls, and I graduated culinary school, and I absolutely loved it. It was some of the best 4.5 years of my life. And I told myself before I got to college that probably the day that I graduated, I would move back to Dallas. And that was what was set on my heart. But through my whole journey at Nicholls and going to culinary school and just encountering the people that I did, I just knew that this is where God wanted me. Like, this is where I needed to be. And yeah, ever since then, I've worked here. I kind of later in the episode, I'll get into it, but I had my conversion my junior year of college, and I became Catholic then. And just ever since then, it's just been a slow journey of learning new things every day and just slowly trying to have those renewing of intention with the Lord. And just this journey has been not what I expected, but It's been absolutely amazing. And all the people that I've met, it's been one of the most beautiful journeys of my life. So yeah, I graduated from Nicholls a couple of years ago, and ever since then I've been grateful and able to call Thibodaux my home, and it's been an amazing journey so far.
Absolutely. So I mentioned earlier the quote from St. Therese. It's one of my favorite quotes. The world is thy ship and not thy home. What do you think she means? Like, what are the implications of what she's saying there?
I remember, I was doing a little bit of research on Advent, and that quote popped up. And I read it, and I kind of passed by, but then I went back, and I read it, and it's super simple. And it's, yes, maybe easy to interpret at first, but, I mean, you can unpack it in so many different ways.
Sure.
Like, when we think of a ship, yes, there are certain where it's, calm, and it's a beautiful day outside, and it's, cruising. But there are other times where people get lost at sea. The waters, it just gets crazy, and it's so unpredictable. Yeah. And we know that, the world is thy ship, but not thy home. This is not our home. That is our home, and that is what we are ultimately living for. But just like a ship, there are going to be times where we feel like we're cruising, and we feel like we're going at a good pace. But then there are other times where we literally feel like the world is just crashing down on us.
Sure.
And I've learned a lot, and even now in my life, if we have a relationship or a friendship or a significant other or anything, and it falls through or something happens that you don't expect, if God is way back there, it's going to hurt. And if he's in the middle of it, it will still hurt, but you will be able to suffer so well. Like St. Faustina says, suffering is one of the purest forms of love that you can ever experience. Yeah. And I think if he is at the center, suffering and these hardships and all these waves, I guess you could say, of life are tough. But I was watching a video of a guy, and he said that when he married his wife, he didn't know that 30 days after that, his wife would die 11 days later. And he said in his video, he was so passionate, but he said that you've never seen a dark cloud just hover over one house. And he said, this too shall pass, the famous quote. But ultimately, he will not leave you. it might feel like the world is crashing down and God is not there and he's way back, but like he's ready. You just have to invite him in. So the world is thy ship, not thy home. Like all of these things you realize, yes, they will pass. Like that doesn't mean you have to completely reject them. And be like, oh, it's going to pass. Let me just not deal with it and just pass on its own. Like you have to truly wake up every day and have that renewing of intention and be like, okay, I'm going to choose God today and I'm not going to choose this. And through that, then it will get healed. And yes, there's a certain detachment from it and know that it doesn't control your life, but a certain attachment to know that you have to conquer it yourself. God is not like a magic genie and just makes everything go away. So it's just important to know that everything happening around you is part of that journey on the ship. And the destination is like so much sweeter. Like it is just, I mean, it's the best thing ever. We're going to be with him forever. And that's what we ultimately just have to think, like, we're not meant for here. Like, even though it might feel like it sometimes, like, there's so much more after this life.
Yeah. I love what you said about like the attachment and the detachment. This is all temporary. The things here matter rather than the things of this world. So as we're going to get into these themes, I think the question comes to mind of like, what is pilgrimage and what kind of things do we do as we would prepare to go on a pilgrimage? For example, when we prepare for a journey, when we are like getting ready to go, before it even starts, right? There are things that have to happen. And there are things along the way that we will come up against as well that are very like practical, that everyone will face. What are some of those things that like come to mind?
Yeah, so as you said, like the destination, knowing what that is will allow you to prepare in a certain way. So like, for example, if you were going on a pilgrimage to like say Mexico City or something like that, you know that you would have to pack certain things and you would have to bring certain things with you. And know that like things that you know you'll need, but also things like as kind of like backups in case. And so the destination definitely affects how you prepare. But for like Advent in general, we know it's the coming of Christ. So it's not really like we're going to put on a backpack, we're going to fill it with like all these, you know, water and like all this stuff. But it's really like getting your heart ready. And that is like your like backpack, I guess. Like you have to fill that with the right things, the things of him and not of this world. In order, because if you feel worldly things going towards a divine destination, it's just not going to work. And so we have to fill it with divine things in order for a divine destination. And so I feel like that's just one of the most important things. Like, yes, the destination is important, but if you lose sight of that, yes, you might lose your path. Like if you lose sight of God and you choose this, then obviously you're going to see this and not him. And so I just think you always have to have that in mind, but realize that everything that happens along the way that might not fully reflect him, that doesn't mean you're not going the right way. Like, the enemy knows when to attack us best. Like, he's smart, like he is. But ultimately, if we just keep God in mind on that pilgrimage, with Advent in mind, ultimately, like, we will start to see that change of heart and look back, like, in the journey and, like, in the past, how far he's already gotten us.
Hearing you talk about just, like, your experience and what Advent kind of means as far as pilgrimage goes. What about Advent makes us think of those things? Is it the preparational season? Is it what comes at the end? Like, what do you think?
I think it's almost a type of thing because I know that, like, for example, and this is just a little example, in high school, when we would all be there before class, we would all be, just cutting up, like just joking around with each other. But we knew that, we would literally listen because we knew the bell was going to ring at 8 o'clock. So like 7:58, we could hear our teacher coming down the hallway and we would just stop what we're doing. Like I would be over here, he would be in this corner. We'd all sit in our desk and we would act like nothing ever happened. And I feel like it's that type of thing. Like, you know that what is coming is of utmost importance and it matters. And not that everything we just did is irrelevant and we want to try to hide it, but like, that person deserves us to get ourselves ready. So like, that's my teacher, like coming down the hallway. But like, this is our Father and like, he's coming for us. He's not just going to give it out freely. Like, that's why we have confession and the sacraments. Like, we gotta, like, faith without works is like dead. Like, we have to work towards it. But like, if we know that this is coming, we owe it to him. We owe it to ourselves. We owe it to everybody that we love and everybody that has prayed for us on our journey to get ready for him. And that is, yes, there's external things that we can do, like we light candles, like we do all these things. But more than that, it's a getting ready of like your heart and everything that you've done, because there's this really crazy cool concept that I've talked to Father Mitch about, the like illumination of conscience. And it's like everything that you've done is just like in front of you. Like, for example, this isn't like my life, but if someone sold drugs to somebody and they ended up taking them and they ended up were like high and they killed somebody on the road while they were driving, you would see that consequence in an instant. And it would either make you turn towards him or it make you turn away. Like you had that option, like we have free will. But ultimately, I think if you know that the most important creator of the universe, most loving being like ever to exist, like he is existence, is coming, you owe it to yourself to get ready for that.
Yeah.
And truly have a contrite of heart to want to change for yourself, but for him first of all.
Yeah.
And I think that really makes you just makes you think about things in a different light. And it's like so important, you know? I mean, it's our salvation.
Yeah, it's the most important. You talked a little bit about like different obstacles. What are some of those obstacles that we might face as we like journey towards Christmas this Advent?
For me, this is, I can say like honestly, and this is a little bit hard to say because I have only been Catholic for 4 years, but I feel like this is probably the first Advent that I have been fully aware of like the actual true meaning and importance of it. But I know in the past, I feel like there are more important things that I think are more important, like certain things, plans with friends, or just someone trying to pull me away from my daily routine, like whether it be a break from work or a break from school or something that happens unexpectedly.
Sure.
And I feel like for me, that will make me like veer off. But ultimately, like this being the first Advent that I'm truly like knowing like how important like this actually is. I mean, the world can throw so many things at us. Like it can be, the devil can throw stuff at you that he knows that you struggle with a lot.
Yeah.
It can be certain groups of people that will turn you towards like the opposite of where you want to go, but it might be fun at that time. And or it can just be like not everybody in my family is Catholic, and not that they're bad people, but it's just we're not here in this season. Like we're like going to the Adoration Chapel regularly, going to Mass regularly, that we know are those things that we need to turn to, especially coming up in this, and our prayer truly like getting more intentional, but kind of having that tendency to becoming like a lukewarm Catholic and just doing like the 1 hour a week type thing.
Yeah.
But it's tough because, and honestly, this Advent, I will probably see more knowing more about it.
Yeah.
Because that's usually what happens. The more you get like more serious about something, the enemy's like, oh, I want to like pick and shoot more, you know?
Yeah, I think too, like some of the obstacles that I've seen in my own experience of Advent and just like Advent in general, I think that our culture puts such a focus on like the commercialism of Christmas, and we focus a lot on like the events and the gifts and the parties and the social engagements and the busyness of the season, and there are all of these things that kind of distract us. So I think distraction is one of the things that kind of pulls at me, or is kind of an obstacle for me during Advent. With so much more to do, there typically is just like a lot more opportunity to go out and do like you were talking about.
Yeah.
And that kind of pulls me out of routine, like you were saying. I'm really hard on myself when I like come out of routine, and it's like very difficult for me to get back. But I think that's what's so beautiful about Advent as a journey, is that it's not like you don't get just one shot at it, right? We get all of these days, this season to be on that journey and to accomplish what we're after, and to reach our destination. Speaking of like this journey and like the commercialization of Christmas and Advent, I think this year I saw in stores there were Christmas decorations, at least in like the big superstores, in September, which is, I mean, they used to at least wait until Thanksgiving, and now it's back in September. I love decorating my home for Christmas, and I love getting to like hear Christmas music. But I think that what message that sends from like secular culture is almost this like idea that you don't have to wait. Like you can start celebrating Christmas right now. Like you can do these things right when you want to, or as soon as you want to, and there's no point in waiting. There's no point in the journey. I wrestle with that. Like, is there purpose to the journey? Like, is there purpose to waiting?
It's crazy that you say that because, I mean, we might see it, but might not truly realize like what it actually means and how we as humans, like that instant gratification, like we don't want to wait. We want to be in control. Like we want to have everything. But your question, like, is there value in waiting, is because Advent is different for everybody and everybody's journey is different.
Sure.
And like in my own life, I know I talked about it earlier, like my conversion and stuff. And I know personally, like getting into that a little bit, how like my journey and how like it ultimately proves that like the waiting is 1,000,000% worth it. For 22 years of my life, I was Baptist. I went to church once a week on Sunday, and that was pretty much it. And all throughout my high school and middle school, like that's what I did. I lived in Dallas, and growing up, the childhood was crazy. My dad, he left when I was about 5 years old, so living with a single mom, it was that aspect of not having like the solid foundation. So like I would, at a very early age, I would like start to question like, okay, what is this? And my dad being completely out the picture, my mom like raising me, it was tough on her. And so when I was 16, fast forward a little bit, when I was a junior, it just got out of control, and Child Protective Services took me out of my home when I was 16. And that's why I was forced to move to Louisiana my senior year of high school. So not having a dad, and he's completely out of the picture, and seeing my mom still dive into that sin, it's hard for me. And I always wanted to question, like, when will it be over? When will it be over? I don't know what the destination is, but I just don't want this to be it. Mm-hmm. Like, I want it to be done. So, and my senior year of high school, that's when my grandparents recommended Nicholls, because my home was now Lafayette and not Dallas. So Nicholls was an hour and a half away instead of 9 hours away. So I wanted to give it a shot because I would be close to at least some family. Mm-hmm. So when I went there, I met some people. Like I joined Kappa Sig, and I still was Baptist at that moment in time, but I just wanted friends so fast. So I just dove into that culture of like the partying scene and all that. And that was my first 2.5 years of college. And when Awakening came around, which is a retreat that they do at St. Thomas, one of my friends told me about it. And I didn't know it was Catholic at all, but I just went because I had gone to retreats in high school before. And I was like, okay, this would be very interesting. And it's Saturday night, and sorry to be a spoiler alert, but they do a procession around the whole church. And Father Mitch literally rests the Eucharist on every participant's head, like, and he will sit with it. But I'm not Catholic, so I don't know what the monstrance is. I don't know what the Eucharist is. I don't know what none of this is. But he comes to the person next to me, and then my heart just starts beating like out of my chest, and I have no idea what's happening. And then immediately, like, he has his chasuble on, and he just completely wraps it around me and just rests the Eucharist on my head. And, like, I, like, started bawling, and, like, I immediately lost control of my body. And Connor Sheremy was playing piano at the time, and he was telling Father Mitch, who told me afterwards, he's like, Connor said that when he looked at me and you, he said that it was so holy that it was burning his eyes. And I told Father Mitch that night, I'm like, look, I don't know what just happened, but I want to be Catholic, and I just felt love in a church like nothing I've ever felt before. And like everything that I went through as a kid, like CPS getting involved, like my mom being an alcoholic, like physically and mentally abusing me, like all my childhood, and that hole that was created in my heart of like a lack of love, I just wanted it to be over. Like I was literally in living hell. But God, first of all, was watching over me every step of the way, because I easily could have never found him, gone into drugs, like gone to prison, like whatever it was, but he was watching me every day. I didn't even know it, but he's like, I got you, like don't worry. And February 9th, 9:45 at night of 2019, he just took over my life, and he said, see, like I told you, like just wait, and it's gonna be okay, and like it will come full circle. And after that, it's been a crazy journey even since then, like just because like I reached a destination then, like I did, like I reached, like he got me. Ever since then, it's still like a journey beyond that. Yeah. Like there's no final destination until heaven. And like even since then, last March, I had a kidney transplant, and it was from my mom, and it didn't accept, so it rejected. So I'm only 26 years old, and now I'm back on the waiting list for a second kidney transplant. And being in at the hospital over 15 times in the past year and a half, like I was back at that moment. I felt like I was 16 years old in my room saying, when is this going to end? And I still ask that myself because I literally went to the hospital a month ago and I was in there for like 5 days. But one of the coolest things that I've definitely learned in my life, if you look back at where you've been and that journey and you realize, okay, like God literally brought me here into this room, being able to just share my heart and you share your heart about an amazing topic, which is Advent, which is where like he's coming back. Like all of that stuff with my mom, my dad, and the kidney thing, and like my own addiction, like everything like that, he's like, just wait. And so just one of the most beautiful things in my life has just been able to see like where he's gotten me so far and how loving he is, like literally the most loving being. Like he is love. And like he's not just be like, all right, cool, all right, peace out, like I'm done with you. Like he doesn't do that. Like we're all sons and daughters, and he can see things that we can't. Like it's just like an analogy that I use sometimes in my Bible studies. Like if a little 2-year-old is reaching up for the stove and it's hot, her dad's gonna yank it away because like she can't see above that. Whatever is up there is dangerous. So he's just gonna pull her hand away. She might cry a little bit and might be upset, but like same with us. Like he can see everything that we can't, and we might be upset for a little bit, but ultimately we will see that good, and we will see like how amazing that journey has been. And like my journey's like still going. Like our lives are like books, and literally pages are just being like added. Good. Every single page is good. We just might view it as bad sometimes. But like ultimately, like if we do desire to have Christ at the center of our life and truly value Advent for what it is, like we can truly see like how like amazing it is. And that's why I'm like, he's gotten me this far. Like he's gotten me through all this, and really being grateful for where I'm at and being grateful for everything that we have. Because I mean, we literally get to receive him every day. Like he created the universe into our souls and just let him change our hearts. So yeah, I just feel like the destination is important. But like if I would have never gone through any of that, I would not be sitting in this chair right now. Yeah. And I would not know the truth of the Eucharist. And like the Eucharist is literally the summit of our faith. Like that is the pinnacle, that is him. So just seeing all those bumps and like in the ship and like having some really, 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 really rough waters, feel like I wanted to jump off sometimes, but like ultimately seeing like the suffering that you go through and like the trials that you go through is like, that's what makes you who you are. If you take away that, you take away yourself. So I just feel like I've truly seen the value of it, just living it. And I feel like that's the main way that you can truly understand it, is just living it. Like you can tell somebody, but I don't think they truly understand really anything until you actually like fully experience it for yourself and live it, you know?
That's so beautiful. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing all of those things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that your journey is a huge testament to like what the Lord is continuing to work in you, and there's an incredible like pinnacle of that faith like coming to fruition. And yeah, just thank you for sharing in vulnerability. You said something along the lines of like, if you hadn't experienced what you had, then like you wouldn't know the truth. Like, do you ever feel like sometimes in my own life, in my own story, I wished it would have happened sooner, or I wish like, gosh, I wish I didn't have to go through these things to learn these lessons, right? I wish I could have skipped that part and gotten to the good part, or I wish I wasted so much time not knowing who the Lord was. Do you ever kind of struggle with those things? Can you talk a little bit about?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I remember when I went to Awakening 45 when I was a junior and I had that unreal experience. I remember like I was beyond grateful, but I was like, why couldn't I find this my freshman year? And being able to experience the beautiful place that St. Thomas is for all 4 years. Or why couldn't I find this? Like, why wasn't I Catholic my whole life? And I realize now that it's just his timing is one of the most beautiful things. And everything that I went through before that ultimately led me to that. Like if I would have never joined Kappa Sig, if I would have never, because I remember it was one night where we had a social, and I remember I just woke up and I couldn't remember anything. And I remember that morning I said, okay, it just hit me. I wasn't Catholic yet, but I remember I hadn't gone to church, period, even like a Baptist church at all. And I told myself like that day, okay, I want to just change my life. So I started going to Living Word. And it was like those little foots in the door. But some of those things that I did, like if I would have never had that experience my first 2.5 years, I would have never joined Kappa Sig. I would have never met Erin, who was on the cheer team, who was my best friend at the time. And she still is one of my best friends. I got to altar serve. She was my sponsor. And so she was by my side she was on the altar on literally the most important day of my life. And I got to altar serve her wedding on the most important day of her life. But if I would have never done those things, I would have never met my sponsor for my confirmation. I would have never met some of the guys that are literally going to be in my wedding. I would have never met so many of these people. And yes, some of those people I don't have a relationship with, but also the lessons that I learned and like the people that I met, and they're not bad people. Like we're called to love everybody. Just because they don't see eye to eye on some of the things, especially like with my faith, doesn't mean they're bad people. But it also made me realize that like that's not where I needed to be or need to be right now. Like that partying scene, having that phase of my life showed me that like that's not what I want and that's not what I need. Sure. Like it was something that was not for him and it was for the world. But he's like I literally went to Baton Rouge on this past Saturday with some of my old friends. And it just proved to me like this isn't me anymore. Right. And like they're not bad people and I still love them, but I just don't need to be here. Like I need to be somewhere else.
But the journey has like changed you to be the person like that you are now. Yeah. And the journey and the waiting and the longing and all of the things that you faced along the way made you the person you are that encountered Christ the way that you did and continues to encounter him even further.
And you can't, if you have two choices, like if I want to choose to go to this restaurant or this restaurant, I can only truly make the decision if I've been to both. So the reason that I do not choose that lifestyle is because I literally lived it and I know it's not good for me. If I would have never lived it, I could have never truly made that decision. But since I experienced the things of this world and I've experienced divine things, like that encounter that I had with the Eucharist, I ultimately want to choose that every time. And a quote that I was reading in my Bible study, it's the good that we want, we do not do, but the evil that I do not want, I do. Mm-hmm. So we're not going to be perfect every time. Like we're fallen. And because of the fall, we have original sin. But I now know that like evil and good, I want him. Like he's coming like with Advent and like I want him in my life and I want him at the center of my life. And like the more you just think about that and wake up every day and choose him and realize that, yes, dang, I wish that would have happened 4 years earlier. Sure. But the things that I experienced that are of this world, I now know, like I know what it did to me. Mm-hmm. Like I know the seeds that it implanted in me. Like it implanted my own addictions because I lived with an addiction my whole life with my mom and my dad. And so it gave me things that were bad, but I now know that I can choose the good because I can just turn away because I mean, that's not who God wants me to be. Like once we realize who God wants us to be, our lives, I mean, they just change. And you can feel it. Like you can feel your heart starting to transform out.
Absolutely. What words of encouragement would you give to the people listening, the people watching, for their own journeys, not just during Advent, but put in a particular way during Advent, but also their entire lives, like of faith?
Yeah, absolutely. My encouragement would just like 2 words that every one of my friends tell me, because like the people that I encounter at St. Thomas, they're just so intentional. Mm-hmm. And like they know like when something is wrong and they say, hey, how are you? And just being honest with them, like, hey, I'm just not good. And if you tell somebody you're good and you're not, you're denying them the opportunity to help you out. Mm-hmm. And like that's just, it's kind of selfish a little bit. So, but they always say just be still. Mm-hmm. Like be still. And as I said earlier, the video of the guy whose wife passed away, and he said the cloud does not just hover over one house and it's gonna pass. And so I would just honestly, the hardships that you go through and the sufferings that you go through, and I still go through them, but inviting God into that and being, not gonna ask why, but like, how can you help me through this? Because Christ didn't die on the cross to erase suffering. Mm-hmm. He died on the cross to show us how to suffer. And so I just think the most important thing is to, first of all, realize the people that God has put in your life to help you through these moments, like the people that I talked about at the very beginning of this that are like, hey, how are you? Mm-hmm. And like they care for your soul, because the goal is to get ourselves to heaven and bring as many people with us.
Yeah.
And we want everybody to be in there like we're going to party, you know?
Right.
And so I just think that if you just realize everything that's happening is part of that plan, and he will get you through it, and don't, like, yes, confide in people and, like, lean on people, but they can't carry your cross for you. Like, you have to carry it. But also make sure God is at the absolute center. Because as I said, if a friendship or a relationship or anything falls through, if he's in the way back, it's going to hurt way more. But if he's at the center, he will show you how to suffer so well. And suffering, I mean, yeah, it's one of the toughest things. But if you just look at it, realize, okay, why am I feeling like this? Like, no one knows the desire better than the author of that desire. And so I feel like if we turn to that author in those moments, and yes, sometimes it is very, very hard, because we just feel that the world is just like crashing down on us. But just my word of encouragement would just to be still, but also like invite him in and have him there with you. But I mean, if you need to talk to somebody, like, just talk to somebody. Like, the more you hold it, it's gonna get heavier. Like, like an analogy that I saw that I like to use is like, if I have a cup of water in front of me, and it weighs 8 ounces. If I hold it out in front of me, the 8 ounces is not gonna change. Like, it's always gonna be 8 ounces. But if I hold it out here like this, my arm's gonna start to shake, and I'm gonna have to put it down. So if you hold stuff like that, it's just gonna become heavier and heavier. But if you just take everything that you have, I use an analogy like when I give my testimony at Awakening. If you take everything that you have, all these burdens, all these struggles, you put it in a box, you wrap it, and you put it at the foot of the cross, and you just fall, and you just give it to him. And you say, God, just take it. Like, it's yours. Like, help me. Like, I can't do this by myself. So, yeah, I just feel like with Advent and just knowing, like, creator of the universe and your Father, like, he's coming, and just truly, truly ready your heart, and just know that, like, just inviting him into your life and just allowing him to just, like, sit right there.
So we're in the first week of Advent. Some people might be thinking, like, well, if this is a pilgrimage, I'm not ready, right? They might have not packed their backpack, so to speak, with all the things they needed. What would you say to those people that might be trying to prepare, like, in the midst of the pilgrimage?
Yeah, I would definitely say a quote that pops into my mind is, God doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called. So everyone is called, and everyone has the gifts of the Holy Spirit, and everyone has Christ, like, in your life. Even if you don't think you're ready, because let's be honest, probably none of us are ready, like fully ready, like fully packed and ready to go. And so, but like starting small, just with like little things, like even if it's praying 5 minutes before bed, or when you wake up, like a really cool thing that I do with my Bible study guys is the heroic minute. So the moment your alarm goes off, don't snooze it, like don't hit the button, you get on your knees and you just pray for a minute and you just give the day to him. And then at the end of the day, you say, okay, this is where I chose you, this is where I didn't. So I would say don't like have this huge expectation goal in your mind, because sometimes if you expect all these big things, you lose sight of the present graces right in front of you. So I would definitely encourage just to start small, and literally prayer is all, like the only way we're going to form a relationship. Like, we're forming a relationship because we're talking to each other. So that's the only way to do it with God. And the only wrong way to pray is to not do it at all. There's no like right way to pray. Like, if you just sit in the chapel and just like be still and just like say, I'm the best. Like, here's my best. Like, just inviting you in.
Yeah.
So like just starting small, starting with those little prayer times, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, going to mass once a week. You don't need, like, just on Sundays. And then also just talking to people and just being like, hey, like, I'm inviting you into my life just to be a friend, just to like help me out, because like I'm struggling and I don't think I'm ready. And just because someone else is more ready doesn't mean they're more worthy. Like, we just, as we do those little small things, you will be able to do more and bigger and bigger. And then eventually your heart, like, I feel like it will never be 100% fully ready for him, because we don't even know what that's going to be like.
Sure.
And it's going to be absolutely amazing. But just baby steps, and know that no matter how ready you are, that's how ready he wants you to be. Like, he's ready just to be able to like transform your heart. So don't beat yourself up just because like you think, because at the end of the day, I actually saw it before I walked in here, like the Hall of Fame, like actors, athletes, all these things, like He said he would rather be an unknown person on earth and be in God's Hall of Fame forever. Like, his Hall of Fame is every single one of us, everybody. So, like, he wants you there, and he wants you to stay there, and he never wants you to leave. So just realize that, like, in your brokenness, like, it's okay. Like, that's what he's there for.
Yeah, beautiful. Lars, thank you so much for being here with us today. I really enjoyed everything that you had to share and just getting to sit down and chat with you about your journey and our journey. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so thank you guys all for joining us this week. This is the first week of Advent. We're so excited to continue journeying with you this Advent during this series. We hope that you'll join us again next week as we're joined by another guest. And I hope that you all have a wonderful Advent season. Thank you so much.